a seat. Grab yourself a cup of joe and put up your feet. Let's talk about the latest news and all about true crime. We can make a difference if we put in the time. Good evening, come and find you a seat. Grab yourself a cup of joe and put up your feet. Let's talk about the latest news and all about true crime. We can make a difference if we put in the time. If we put in the time. Good evening, come and find you a seat. Grab yourself a cup of joe and put up your feet. Let's talk about the latest news and all about true crime. We can make a difference if we put in the time. Good evening.
Hello there. Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening from the Leprechaun's Den.
Yeah, what he said. Makes me want to go get some Lucky Charms.
You can't have me Lucky Charms.
Yeah, Joe Schmoe's channel is not sponsored by Lucky Charms yet, but he's open. Right.
Not yet. Come
Anyways.
grab you a cup of Joe and 2 cups of Kresha.
Oh gosh, y'all. You sure? I don't think that's a good idea. Man. So how was your day?
Oh man. The whole last couple of weeks have been really busy between CrimeCon and the London Valdez case. It's been really busy. A lot going on. So I'm glad to take a little mini break from that and talk about what we're going to talk about tonight.
Oh, it's bad.
Oh no. Should I log out now?
Well, I mean, it's abuse. So yeah, it's bad. It's heavy. It's, I don't know. I mean, it's really challenging because it's been happening forever. These kind of cases where there seems to be the perpetrators seem to get away over and over and time again. Things haven't changed. Just, I think the way we get our information has changed. I think that's it.
Yeah. And, hopefully across the board, just maybe incrementally, we're combating cognitive dissonance, maybe a little bit here and a little bit there.
For sure. Me, I can tell you that right now. And I didn't know what to call it besides shattering my worldview. I just said, this kind of research will shatter your worldview. You have to just prepare for it. And it's like a decision you make to, am I going to cross that line? Okay, screw it. I'm crossing that line. And you can't go back. You can't turn and look the other direction. Once you open that door, it's open. So that's just something you have to, do I want to live in a delusion or do I want to live in reality? And reality is not pretty, at least not from my researching. That's not what I found. So
right.
Anyways, and I uploaded a video just now, but it's only a part 1. It's probably going to be 3 different parts because it's long. But what I did was, I'm trying to find it right now. There it is. So what I did was I kind of okay, the We Are the People Utah podcast that Justin Riggs appeared on, that I mean, it just made my jaw drop on the floor, okay, because of the abuse and how it slammed right into the apostle or Elder Maxwell, which has to do with Tom Harrison. And so I was like, "Oh my god, okay. Oh my god." So what I did was I copied the transcript and I'm trying because they say so many difficult things in that podcast. Somebody just my neighbor just cranked something up. I don't know what it is. Hope y'all can't hear it.
Okay, so remind everybody, Tom Harrison is the Lori Daybell connection, right? And why?
Well, okay, so Tom Harrison, he is the, I'll say, inspiration behind Visions of Glory. And I mean, so people are like, "Oh, it's just a book." And I'm right there with you. Okay, I'm right there with you, advocating right there with you. However, it's not just that. It's not just the book connection. It's not just that the book was found on Lori's and or Chad's person multiple times throughout the investigation, but it's the fact that Tom Harrison is also involved in Tim Ballard, Julie Rowe, Jody and Ruby Frankie, David Hamblin, Gordon Bowen, and now Bountiful. Somewhat. I mean, it's well, I can't say he's in there just yet. Although I
But
kind of can.
he's like the Kevin Bacon of all the cult spinoffs. And
What does that mean? I don't know.
Kevin, you don't know about the 7 degrees of Kevin Bacon?
Oh, 7 degrees. Okay, I didn't know about that.
Yeah.
No. But I mean, so why is this therapist who he was renowned for that for Utah? You know, he was in Salt Lake City. He's retired now, allegedly. But here's this therapist who is like this mysterious character that is in the background on every one of these Mormons gone bad cases. And you have to ask yourself, why? I know I ask myself this all the time. And why don't we know more about Tom? Because I think it's important. It seems like he's evaded being exposed, not just with Visions of Glory, but in all these cases.
Right. He's always like second or third generation away from the spotlight.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he's like a degree. He is the degree that sits between leadership and Lori and Chad and Tim and Jody and Ruby and all these people. You see what I'm saying? So he is like the middleman between those two levels or whatever. I don't know what else to call it. So it's like, why? Why is Tom Harrison? Why are his ideas being purported in his, not only in his book, but his firesides, his all the people, Chad Daybell. I mean, he just came out with his letters from Chad, and it talks about his beliefs and whether or not they're LDS beliefs or not, or if they're a mixture of LDS beliefs, Tom Harrison's beliefs, and Chad Daybell's beliefs. I mean, that's also an option. Oh wow, that is really crazy. That's really crazy. But Tom Harrison was this child sex abuse therapist for many, many years. And it makes me wonder what is going on here. Why are there child murder, child torture, and child sex abuse everywhere that Tom touches? I think it's relevant. So,
Yeah.
that's a little about how I feel.
It's like King Midas, but the opposite. The King Midas of sexual abuse.
I don't know. I don't know that
Murders.
analogy either. Sorry.
Everything King Midas touched turned to gold. So everything Tom Harrison touches.
It's horrible.
Yeah.
It's convicted. It's dead. It's abusive. It's vile. It's vile. So, I mean, and that's just my opinion. I mean, he is more than welcome to go on the record and straighten me out. Would love for Tom to do that because it would help give me more answers than having to speculate. That's how you solve that. But we're not dealing with people who they look at this as confrontation and as persecution. So it behooves them, I guess, to save face by remaining in the shadows. And I'm not cool with that. Like, mm,
No.
who is you? You is not important. You're not that important. These are children dying and being abused in many different forms. You are not exalted. You're welcome. Okay. And you can write these things and put like my fears, my curiosity to bed like that. It's so easy to talk to people. Although I'm not a fan of talking to people too. I get it. As far as like, oh, like if you said, "Hey, Tom's here," I'd be like, "Oh, Lord." That would kind of take me aback a little bit, but I'll still do it. Anyways, I I know I pulled my window up or my tab up and I can play it's like 18 minutes. But I read 18 minutes of the transcript or 20 minutes of the transcript, and it'll kinda give you a little taste of what's going on. Don't laugh either, okay? Or if you do, don't laugh loud. I try. Alright, ready? And
Ready.
go. Cover up. Bountiful child abuse ring exposed. Miles case review. In this video, we delve into the deeply disturbing Miles case, a review of an alleged child abuse ring in Bountiful, Utah. We will meticulously examine the shocking allegations, the available evidence, and the legal ramifications surrounding the case. Furthermore, we will explore the serious claims of a potential cover-up by the LDS Church. This is a story of profound suffering and a critical call for accountability. Utah has a child abuse problem. Utah ranks 8th in child abuse and 1st in sex abuse of children. In an emotional discussion, podcast host Jason and Alexia Preston from We Are the People Utah delve into the harrowing issue of child abuse in Utah, a state that ranks alarmingly high in both overall child abuse and child sex abuse cases. They share their personal struggles and sacrifices in exposing these painful truths, emphasizing their obligation to speak out despite facing lawsuits, financial burdens, and the risk of losing support. The hosts, particularly Alexia, underscore the profound impact these revelations have had on their lives, shattering their faith in institutions and leaders they once held in high regard. They urge listeners to confront this dark reality, stressing that ignoring such evils only allows them to grow, and that their ultimate loyalty must be to the child victims. Now, on to the transcript. Decades old sexual abuse and LDS Church cover up allegations are resurfacing. At least 6 people are suing Brenda Miles and Richard Miles, the daughter and son in law of church president Russell M. Nelson. A reporter, Jim Seawack, examined the decades-old allegations. Claims of abuse involve children as young as 1 year old. The 79-page suit includes these allegations. The defendants filed a 141-page motion to dismiss the suit. The allegations of sexual abuse date back to the 1980s, accusing John and Jane Doe, an LDS church leader, of holding touching parties and sexually abusing children as young as 1. The suit claims that after victims came forward, church elder Neil A. Maxwell blessed them and told them to forgive and forget. The suit claims if church leaders had taken further action with police, the abuse might not have even happened. Court records to dismiss this suit were filed the following Wednesday, in federal court show that the John and Jane Doe defendants are actually Brenda Miles and Richard Miles. In their dismissal motion, the Miles deny all allegations. They claim the victims only came forward after meeting with a psychologist alleged to be at the center of a satanic ritual scare in the 1980s. The LDS Church was not named as a defendant, but due to the
What?
involvement of President
hold on.
Nelson's daughter and son-in-law.
I thought about giving you the link so you could do that. Go ahead.
The Miles claim that this lawsuit is based on the plaintiffs seeing a psychiatrist or psychologist that is at the center
Barbara
of the
Snow.
satanic.
Yeah. They're the one. I'm glad you noticed that, because I mean, who is the one that says satanic ritual abuse? Who is the one? They're going to say false memories too. They're going to say it's out of the statute of limitations. Okay. And that these are baseless, fabrications.
But that's rich that they claim it's based on a psychologist being as part of a satanic ring. Oh my gosh.
Exactly.
You can't make this up.
Mm-mm.
Nope. Satanic ritual scare in the night. All allegations. They claim the victims only came forward after meeting with a psychologist alleged to be at the center of a satanic ritual scare in the 1980s. The LDS Church was not named as a defendant, but due to the involvement of President Nelson's daughter and son-in-law, the church issued a statement. The church statement says, quote, "These allegations of interference or cover-ups are baseless and offensive. Law enforcement investigated this matter in the 1980s and took no action against the church or its leaders," unquote. The plaintiff's attorney stated they are filing now because the alleged victims, quote, "now have a voice. They want to be believed and they want justice for living with the shame and pain of what happened to them as children," unquote. The defendants argue that the statute of limitations has passed, which they claim is grounds for dismissal. A copy of the complaint is available on KUTV.com, fully redacted. 6 people known only as John and Jane Doe filed.
So so that was one news report. That was one news report. Now this is the second news report. And do you notice this guy is hanging by a millstone? I did that on purpose. Anyways, so this is the second report from Fox 13, and then it'll go into me trying to figure out how to do the transcript. So of the We Are the People Utah podcast. So, bear with me. I'm trying.
A lawsuit alleging sexual abuse and a cover-up by prominent people within the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Some of the alleged victims spoke to Fox 13. One victim stated, quote, "abused me my whole childhood," unquote. The lawsuit alleges 3 children were abused by their father in the 1980s. It also claims the children were repeatedly abused at, quote unquote, touching parties involving Richard and Brenda Miles. Victims felt, quote, weren't believed that they were ostracized, that they were almost treated like lepers, unquote. Fox 13 does not typically name alleged sex abuse victims, but some plaintiffs agreed to talk on condition of anonymity. Quote, "Victims need to be listened and heard and have a voice," unquote. Their mother claims she reported it to police, but they did nothing. The LDS Church also did nothing, according to her. She says, quote, "I assumed that the highest leaders in the church would want to help my children heal, that the perpetrators would be put in jail. I was very quickly disillusioned of that," unquote. The mother says she divorced and her husband remarried, which is where Jane Doe 3 claims he abused her and her siblings. Her stepfather committed suicide in 1995. Quote, "But if somebody had done the right thing the first time, then the abuse never would have happened, and it was pretty horrific," unquote. The lawsuit accuses the Mileses of using their status within the LDS Church to cover up crimes. The lawsuit originally named the Mileses under pseudonyms, but their lawyer chose to publicly reveal their identities. Quote, "There is no truth to these allegations. The Miles did not abuse these children or anyone else," unquote.
Just know that the Miles's attorney is Jim Jardine. He is a fellow bondsman, which is short for Skull and Bones. And that's the same fraternity that or secret society, whatever you want to call it, is the same one that Russell M. Nelson, the prophet of the Mormon Church now, that's the same club. So there's that connection. And so he's actually defending the Mileses against these allegations of abuse. And he's not even this kind of attorney. He's not a defense attorney. He's like into way bigger civil matters, you know. So I just find that interesting.
Jim
Or was that me? I don't know.
That was
Jardine
you.
says police investigated this and found nothing. He says police also deny the church influenced the investigation and suggested the alleged victims have false memories. Quote, these allegations were investigated in the 1980s by 3 different law enforcement agencies who found no evidence of any child sex abuse ring in Bountiful and filed no charges against my clients, unquote. The plaintiffs insist it did happen and they want justice. Their lives and comfort, quote, was not more important than me and my life, unquote. While the lawsuit does not name President Nelson, the plaintiff's lawyer suggested he could be added later. Quote, but we believe there will be additional evidence that will have to show that this person, along with other people, worked in tandem with the defendants to basically cover up the crime of the sexual assaults, the sexual abuse, unquote. In a statement, the LDS Church says it handles such issues with the utmost seriousness. The church says the allegations of interference or cover up are baseless and offensive. They state that this was investigated in the 1980s with no action taken. The Miles' attorney filed a motion to dismiss within hours of the lawsuit being filed. A federal judge will decide whether or not this lawsuit proceeds. Both the lawsuit and the motion to dismiss are available on fox13now.com. It's been very difficult to get this information.
So now this goes into the podcast, the We Are the People Utah podcast. So I need to figure out a better way.
Out to people. Several people are aware of the details and nobody wants to talk about it.
It's like the
I
transcript.
appreciate the victims for their bravery and willingness to speak. The host, Jason and Alexia Preston, welcome Justin Riggs, who then thanks them for having him on. Tyler says, Justin, you pulled the lid off this a couple of years ago and have been leading the charge on exposing this. I've learned a lot from you and am thankful for your willingness to join us today. And then Justin says, I'm grateful for the opportunity. Thanks for having me. The host then welcomed Tyler, who has been an incredible whistleblower in their backyard and has been on several of their shows. Tyler says, thanks for having me. It's an honor to be here, not just with you today, but with one of my heroes and mentors in this subject, Justin Riggs. He introduced me to many elements of this story that we will share with you today, unquote. I appreciate all the work and effort you have invested in helping to lay this out professionally. And so Tyler says, as you mentioned, very few are willing to talk about this, so finding qualified individuals to explain it is hard to come by. I don't feel like one of those qualified individuals, but Justin definitely is. I've put hundreds of hours of research into this and chased down many leads. This will be my best effort, and I appreciate your patience and willingness to have us on. I want to start by diving into the allegations brought forth in that lawsuit. Fair warning, there will be some graphic testimony of child abuse and strong allegations of abuse and questioning about a cover-up at the highest levels of the LDS Church. This will give the audience a good high-level view of the allegations and situation. Once I'm finished with the first section, Justin will go into his presentation and explore some key points of the lawsuit and additional information that points to very curious patterns and connections that should evoke additional curiosity from the audience. Justin will be asking some difficult questions and prompting us to consider whether this case, which was eventually dismissed without even being heard, had any merits and what this all means to us today. The case was brought by several plaintiffs from 2 separate families who claimed to be victimized by a diagnosed pedophile, Bill Carstensen, who had committed suicide by the time the lawsuit was filed. Dick and Brenda Miles were the named plaintiffs. Brenda Miles is the daughter of Russell M. Nelson. The basis of the suit was that Dick and Brenda Miles used their power and influence to interfere with the investigation and to leverage their relationships with powerful people within the church, such as their father, Russell M. Nelson, and Neil Maxwell, to ensure that neither church discipline nor legal consequences were suffered for the alleged abuse that took place. The court documents list Jane and John Doe's as the plaintiffs and male defendant 1 and female defendant 2 as the defendants. These alleged activities occurred in the mid-1980s, but the complaint was filed in 2018 past the statute of limitations. Jane Doe's 1 through 4, as well as Jane Doe's 1 and 2, bring this complaint and request for a jury trial against defendants male 1 and female 2. The Jane Doe's 1 through 4 are children, now adults, from two separate families, Bill Carstenson's first wife and Bill Carstenson's second wife, a mixture of stepchildren and biological children. The defendants are Dick and Brenda Miles, and Brenda is President Nelson's daughter. Sexual crimes were committed against Jane Doe 1, Jane Doe 2, and John Doe 1. Jane Doe 1, Jane Doe 2, and John Doe 1 are all siblings. Jane Doe 1 is the eldest daughter of Mother 1. Jane Doe 2 is the third oldest child of Mother 1. John Doe 1 is the only son. These are the biological children of a sexual predator, hereafter referred to as perpetrator. The perpetrator is no longer living, having committed suicide in 1995. Defendants male 1 and female 2, along with the perpetrator, who were in the same LDS ward in Bountiful, Utah, committed sexual abuse when the opportunity allowed against Jane Doe 1 and Jane Doe 2, and after he reached approximately 1 year old, John Doe 1, from approximately early 1984 to late 1985 or early January 1986 in Bountiful, Utah. Other similarly aged children believed to be in the same LDS ward, along with plaintiffs, were also victims of these crimes. Male defendant 1 and female defendant 2, the Mileses, led what they called touching parties at their home and at the perpetrator's home. These gatherings, often attended by acquaintances and friends of the defendants and perpetrator, sometimes included a 16-year-old babysitter from the same LDS ward. This individual is believed to have been both a victim and a perpetrator of crimes and is no longer living, having reportedly committed suicide like the perpetrator. The parties occurred 1 or 2 times per month, seemingly whenever the adults could isolate the children. During these events, some of the plaintiffs in Group 1 were compelled to undress and perform acts of sexual perversion. Typically, the parties commenced with adults instructing the children to, quote, put on a show, unquote, which involved dancing and culminated in the children undressing while the adults applauded and offered encouragement. Once the children were naked, the defendants, perpetrator, and any others present would sexually assault them by touching their genitals and vaginally and penetrating them with fingers and objects such as crayons or candy. Male defendant 1 and female defendant 2, along with the perpetrator and others present, would force the children to touch the genitals and or breasts of others present. The children were additionally forced to orally engage with the genitals of male defendant 1 and the perpetrator. Male defendant 1 and the perpetrator would not fully undress, but would expose their penises to the children, coercing and manipulating them to perform these vile acts, which the adults termed, quote, marriage lessons, unquote. On at least one occasion, the children were forced to observe the perpetrator engage in sexual intercourse with statutorily raped the 16-year-old babysitter. On another occasion, the perpetrator engaged in sexual intercourse with the children's paternal grandmother, the perpetrator's mother, Bill Carstenson's mother, while the children were forced to watch. Furthermore, male defendant 1, female defendant 2, who are the Mileses, allegedly, and perpetrator Bill Carstenson would place candy on the children's genitals and compel the other children to lick the candy off. Jane Doe 1 recalls this occurring when her brother, John Doe 1, was merely 1 year old. The defendants and or perpetrator, depending on the occasion, would remove John Doe 1's clothing, manipulate his penis until erect, apply a powdery candy to his erect, and force the other children, including his siblings, to lick the candy off him. Over time, male defendant 1 and female defendant 2, the Mileses, allegedly, began videotaping these gatherings. Jane Doe, the oldest of the children at the time of the assault, recalls the defendants videotaping the children dancing and undressing and continuing to film as the sexual assaults and rapes occurred. In addition to the children of Plaintiff Group 1, other children from the ward were also victims of sexual assaults and rapes at these parties. Portions of Jane Doe 1, Jane Doe 2, Jane Doe 5, and John Doe 1's declaration will be read. These are their actual sworn statements of fact as adults under penalty of perjury. Declaration of Jane Doe 1. Jane Doe 1 was born approximately 1977. From approximately 1983 to 1986, while Jane Doe 1 was 5 to 8 years old, she and her siblings were sexually assaulted on numerous occasions by her father, Bill Carstensen, known as Perpetrator 1 male, and Perpetrator 2 female, who were in their local ward. Others involved included Jane Doe 1's paternal grandmother, this is Bill Carstensen's mother, and a teenage babysitter who was also in their ward. Other teenagers and adults were involved from time to time. The abuse included quote-unquote touching parties, which were gatherings of adults, teenagers, and children. The adults involved were primarily the perpetrator and the Mileses. So they're saying that the perpetrator being Bill Carstensen, their father, and the Mileses, which is Brenda and Dick Miles, allegedly. The teenage babysitter named CW also babysat the Mileses' children. When the touching parties first started, Jane Doe 1's younger sister, Jane Doe 5, and the daughter of the Mileses, who was Jane Doe 5's age, were involved. As I got older, the younger daughter of the Mileses, my younger siblings, Jane Doe 2 and John Doe 1, became involved. I also remember seeing B.D., another young girl from the ward, at some of the parties. These parties would happen frequently, sometimes weekly, sometimes 1 to 2 times a month. I remember having touching parties on Saturday and then going to church on Sunday with Sister Brenda Miles, aka Sister Defendant 2, as our primary teacher, and her husband, Defendant 1, Dick Miles, sitting on the stand as he was in the bishopric. Typically, the touching parties would start with the adults telling us to, quote unquote, put on a show for them. These shows were usually dances that I, Jane Doe 5, and the oldest daughter of the Mileses would perform. These dances would always end with undressing. I remember this is when applause from the adults and our babysitter would get the loudest. After we were naked, the adults and teenage babysitter would sexually assault us. This included our private parts and penetrating us badly and their fingers, and sometimes using objects like crayons or candy to penetrate us. I recall Dick Miles, Defendant 1, being the meanest of the adults. He seemed to encourage the others to participate. There were usually treats and bribes involved at every stage of the parties. The adults, including Dick Miles and Bill Carstensen, masturbated me and other children. They also forced us to touch and masturbate them. The adults referred to the touching as quote-unquote marriage lessons. I was forced to touch and lick Dick Miles and Bill Carstensen's. Dick Miles and Bill Carstensen would expose their penis and would make me touch and suck them. I was also forced to touch the bare breast of Brenda Miles and my teenage babysitter, CW. Dick Miles seemed to be in charge of the parties and encouraged children and adults to perform. At one party, I saw my father having sex with our babysitter, CW. At another party, I saw him having sex with our grandmother, LS. The abuse was generational, with parents abusing children and children abusing others. These parties took place at my house, the Miles' house, and my grandmother's house. The parties seemed to happen almost every time the babysitter watched us or when our mom was out of town or away from the house. Sometimes the parties would happen at my house with only the Mileses, our babysitter, CW, and sometimes an older adult man and or friends of CW present, even when my mom and father, Bill Carsonson, were on a date. When I became older, Jane Doe 2 and John Doe 1 were also present at these parties. I remember Jane Doe 2 being touched similarly to Jane Doe 5 and me. There were times when each of these adults penetrated Jane Doe 2's vagina with their fingers and with objects. When John Doe was just over a year old, he became an object of these parties as well. Threats or punishments were common if they revealed what was happening.
Okay. So, let me stop it. I want out. Hold on. Let me switch to this. Yeah, so that's very intense, right? And that's just that part. I know, right? I know. I tried cutting out the words, but I hate doing that. I like just saying it as it is because it's reality. However, trying to play with the YouTube algorithm also, trying to remain
Right.
neutral.
Right.
So while I was pulling, actually, let me show you this. While I was pulling the files up for this, okay, so the grandmother of these children, she would say it's a blip here and a blip there. She included that in the lawsuit and things like that because of something that President Hinckley said on 60 Minutes back in the day. I don't know when the actual episode aired, but this was uploaded on 2015. But I pulled up the part where that is said. So let's listen to that real quick.
Greater than among non-Mormons, but a study has found that many Mormon women who went to their clergymen for help believe the clergy were just not sympathetic.
The sociologist tells us at the root of the problem is the fact that men, in effect, in your church have authority over women, so that your clergymen tend to sympathize with the men, the abusers, instead of the abused.
That's one person's opinion. I don't think there's any substance to it. Now, there'll be a blip here, a blip there, a mistake here, a mistake there. But by and large, the welfare of women and children is as seriously considered as is the welfare of the men in this church, if not more so.
President.
I don't think so. I think you are wrong, Prophet, Seer, and Revelator. That's just my opinion. But
Allegedly.
yeah, it just seems that way. So I was pulling up this case, right? But I got sidetracked because I pulled the Tanners wrote this. Well, let me switch screens again. The Satanic Ritual Abuse in Mormonism. They wrote this PDF. I got it in PDF form. It don't tell me how many pages it is, but it's thick and full of these kind of allegations that are, in my opinion, just a degree or two away from the ritual murders that happened to Tylee and JJ. And I believe that's what's going to happen to R. Frankie and E. Frankie and Melanie's kids.
And Melanie's kids, right?
Mm-hmm.
Even though only 2 of them had been declared dark.
I don't know. I think in my research, I have found other spots where there will be 2 named here, and then over here they name one, and then they name another. So I've got to pull that together so that I can, share that or, come to my own conclusion there and find that out. So, definitely worth exploring, right? So,
yes, absolutely.
But
and this book or pamphlet or whatever you want to call it is by the same people that broke the
Pace memo.
The Glenn Pace memo.
Yes. And so they're dubbed as anti-Mormons. And, Sandra Tanner is actually the great granddaughter of Brigham Young. And so she was Mormon. I want to say Gerald, her husband, was too.
but they got out of it and they started, oh God, I can't, Utah Lighthouse Ministry and a media, like they have a media company too. She's still around. Gerald died, and I would love to meet her one day. But anyway, so they've compiled there's other books and materials that they have produced over the years that are out there. You know, I've read over quite a few of them, but this one seems to really focus on this type of abuse and how it's not so out there in this context, in the context of the LDS Church and the culture. And so when we wonder why people are so inverted in their thoughts and their actions and their abuses and stuff, this is why, I believe. It's been infiltrated. So, I mean, right above it, they talk about the Freemasonry stuff, okay, and how that was incorporated into the temple ceremony. But I'm just going to start here. I want to read some of these things. And so it says, shocking accounts. It says, since Bishop Pace's memo came to light, there has been a great deal of discussion in Utah about both sex abuse and satanic ritual abuse. On January 18th, 1992, KSL TV reported the results of a poll about ritual abuse. Utahns overwhelmingly believe that satanic and or ritualistic child abuse exists. A recent KSL Deseret News poll showed that 90% of those surveyed say it exists. Some say it's widespread, while others see it happening only occasionally or seldom. Only 2% do not think it exists at all. So I don't know when this was done. Oh, January 18, 1992. That was right smack dab into what they called the Satanic Panic. So while Pace's 12-page report is certainly shocking, the statements made by the victims themselves, which came forth after we published the memo, contain details that are even more appalling. If we accept these accounts as authentic, we are forced to conclude that one of the most diabolical conspiracies one could ever imagine has gained a real foothold right in the shadow of the Mormon temple. As we indicated earlier, KTVX Channel 4 was the first television station to report on Bishop Pace's memo. These are important when they include things like this because there's some media companies that will not touch it. As we've seen, I've seen this, you know, where they just won't cover it. Okay, so the following day, October 25th, 1991. So this was after, you know, they aired this. Okay, as we indicated earlier, I'll just start here. KTVX Channel 4 was the first television station to report on Bishop Pace's memo. The following day, October 25th, 91, Paul Murphy of KTVX said that, quote, as soon as the story aired last night, we started receiving calls, all from people who say they were involved with this. They call themselves survivors because they survived a life that sounds like something in Dante's hell. Now they are coming forward to offer hope to people who are still victims of ritualistic abuse, unquote. Paul Murphy said that he talked with a woman he called Tina. He claimed that when Tina, he claimed that, quote, when Tina was just a child, she says that cult buried her alive, strapped her to crosses, and forced her to witness human sacrifices, unquote. I'm saying that because Joseph Scott Morgan had posited on a court TV program one day, like during the trials, that like during, I want to say it was Chad's trial. And I didn't see it until like 6 months later, this one particular episode, because I try to watch everything. And he said that it was possible that JJ might have been buried alive, and that, talk about cognitive dissonance. Okay. I mean, I spiraled. Okay. Because I was just like, oh my God, if that's true, that is just that much more sadistic. And then again, I don't put it past these people. Okay. When you're taught this, you're going to do this. Obviously. I mean, apparently that's kind of what's going on. And that's what makes it generational. And so that's going to look normal to people like Adam Cox. It's going to look normal to people like Hunter. You know?
Right. and it's going to look weird to the rest of us looking in. So Alex Cox is somewhere in the middle, right? Like,
Yeah. Yep.
as far as public view goes, he's somewhere in the middle. But as far as what he did when nobody was looking, except for
Mhm.
Chad and Lori and maybe Melanie,
Yeah. Anybody else
the
involved?
things he did, they know that he was somewhere else. But as far as the outside looking in, Alex Cox was like somewhere in the middle between this extreme behavior
Child
and
abuse. Yeah.
and quote unquote normal Mormon behavior. But like bouncing Lori on his knee, that's
Right.
normal brother
Yeah.
sister behavior.
This is what I'm trying to beat in here, because this is what's going on. This is how, and that's just what was openly shown. It's not really what happened. We don't know what happened because nobody's come forward either with allegations and or with, defending themselves against allegations or claiming abuse,
We
But I
would
mean,
love
I've
that.
seen snippets of where it's been said that, like, Lori had said to her dad and her mom that she didn't want Barry changing their diapers. And this is allegedly. Okay, I don't know. But there's a reason for that. There's a reason you don't want your father changing your children's diapers. In my opinion. So it's like, what's really going on there? And is this why we saw the evidence of how Tylee and JJ's bodies were recovered? And then you have Chad in his books, and Wordwise, Kit with Wordwise is phenomenal in this area because she really was able to elicit all the materials in Chad's books and kind of like, it's like another psychoanalysis, And to me, actually, she said that he saw himself as a victim, and like the kids or whatever child he was talking about, usually not his, as the aggressor. Okay. And there was just some really off comments there. So I'm like, this is not just Lori and her family. This is also Chad and his family. And possibly, and how maybe there is some abuse there. Okay. It's not
Allegedly.
outside. We won't know because they both turned down PSI reports,
Right.
So
And it's also interesting that it's a merge of Southern California Mormonism, which is by all accounts way more liberal, and you can do a lot more things. You can even drink wine
you
on
can
occasion.
wear bikinis,
Yes.
sit in the hot tub.
And
Yeah.
he was from like Utah proper, like just outside of Salt Lake City. He was in the Southeast Valley. So it's just
Very
so
right.
interesting that they merged, and when they merged, they created this mess.
Right. Their own opinions, their own views. We're going to Mormon this way and get away with it, basically. And I mean, so everybody Mormon's different, like Megan even said when she would go over there during the summertime for trips that she would be thinking like, oh my God, this would not happen in my house, and, or they would go to church and then after church, they would hear Barry and Janice having intercourse, I mean,
Did Megan really
Barry,
say that? I missed that.
yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I just threw up a little in my mouth.
Yeah, I'm sure she did too.
Ugh.
And that's normal, but that was normal to Lori, Alex, Adam, Summer,
But what an
and
odd thing
Melanie's
to
mom.
do. What an odd thing to do after church.
Well, you gotta
Like,
do it sometimes, I guess. I don't know.
but does that mean that like doing their church thing like
Turned
triggered
them on.
some type of aphrodisiac? Like, oh my
I don't know.
gosh.
I don't even want to know. I don't even want to know.
I don't want to know
And
either.
like
But it
Amanda
makes me
Coolmore
wonder.
says, it's a learned behavior because SA victims go on to be SA abusers most of the time. I wouldn't say all the time, but yeah, I mean,
it's like the hurt people analogy, or those that are, yeah, like you're saying, those that are abused usually go on to abuse and not break that cycle, right? And it's kind of like they infiltrate that way too. Generationally, these what I'm calling Satanists. Okay, I'm not saying that they, but let's read a little more before I sit here and
Before we get too
I'd
far
rather
off
read
track.
it. Yeah. So it says now they're coming forward to offer hope to people who are still victims of ritualistic abuse. Paul Murphy said that he talked with a woman he called Tina. He claimed that when Tina was just a child, she says that cult buried her alive, strapped her to the crosses, and forced her to witness human sacrifices. The following is taken from the interview. Murphy says, "And how many people did you see die?" Tina: "I would say maybe 12 that I know of for definite." Murphy says, "What was the most painful memory you have of what happened to you?" Tina says, "Close members of my family who have passed away." Murphy says, "They were killed?" She says, "Yes." Murphy says, "By your own parents?" Tina says, "Yeah." Paul Murphy went on to say, quote, "At the time, Tina's father was a member of the LDS bishopric. Tina only recently remembered what happened to her. She told her story to Glenn Pace. Dozens of stories like Tina's convinced Pace to write this 12-page report, and other reports, just know that. There's some that we haven't seen, detailing activities of a satanic cult within the LDS Church. Now, the church is instructing its bishops and stake presidents to take the matter seriously." And then on October 25th, 91, the Mormon Church's own station, KSL, Channel 5, interviewed a woman called Jody. According to Jane Clayson, quote, "Jody was 3 years old when she says she unknowingly became trapped in the scene of ritualistic abuse. It lasted 5 years. 20 years of therapy has triggered her memory of the most heinous rituals in which she was forced to participate," unquote. Jody claimed that the cult was involved in, quote, "infant sacrifice and cannibalism, a lot of torture," unquote. That's, I mean, this is not the first time we hear this. I don't know where the rest of Tylee is. Could that be, and I've thought it, I've wondered it, where's the rest of her? Anyways, Clayson reported that, quote, "Jody is one of the victims LDS Church General Authority Glenn Pace interviewed for the internal confidential church memo printed in an anti-LDS Church newsletter yesterday. The year-old memo estimates up to 800 people may be involved in such abuse along the Wasatch Front. Church members, some church leaders. Jody says LDS Church doctrine was twisted and distorted in their ritual ceremonies," unquote. I mean, that's what Chad and Lori were doing. Anyways, Jody stated, quote, "There is a lot of violence and sexual perversion that went along with different scriptural settings," unquote. She went on to say, quote, "I have no idea what my relationship to God is because that was so turned upside down. My religion, my sense of self was stolen," unquote. KTVX Channel 4 interviewed a victim who related the following. "My grandfather was a bishop and my grandmother was a Relief Society president, an organization for adult women in the Mormon Church. My grandparents were the leaders of what was happening to me as a child. As a very small child, I witnessed my baby brother being murdered by the cult. Everyone participated in this."
Wait,
This
what?
is
Who is this? Who is this witness?
Jody. Someone named Jody,
Wow.
who was interviewed by Bishop Pace.
Okay, so this is one of the witnesses from the Glenn Pace investigation.
Right. These all are.
Okay. Whew.
I know, but that doesn't make it. I thought you were set off by the baby brother being murdered.
Yeah,
by the
no,
cult.
I was.
Okay.
Because I mean, I remember talking about that generally speaking in when reviewing the Glenn Pace memo because it was an oversight thing, but now we're getting into details like
Right.
horrible,
Yeah.
horrible details The
Mhm.
grandfather is the bishop. The grandmother is the president of the Relief Society, and they
Right.
participated in this.
And it says, as a very small child, I witnessed my baby brother being murdered by the cult. I don't know how they get away with all this stuff, is what I'm saying. Like, where's that? Anyways, everyone participated in this. That's the part I want to emphasize is everyone participated in this. That to me says Melanie Gibb, Melanie Boudreau Pulowski, Ian Pulowski, Zalema, however, I don't know if they were there geographically. I know Melanie and David were. I know that there was a Firm Foundation expo that weekend that JJ was murdered. I know that there was an OUR rescue run the weekend that Tylee was murdered. That's where I'm at. Okay. And it says, I do remember the evidence was often burned. And for instance, when I was an adolescent, I was pregnant and the cult literally smorted my baby and burned it. Okay. According to Jody. Another victim appeared on the same program. Unfortunately, we started recording too late and missed her story. We did, however, record the following statement from her. Quote, there is no doubt that it's going to blow many members of the Mormon Church away, and it will be very difficult for many members to accept, unquote. Right.
You know what?
Cognitive dissonance.
The members have to know about it before it can blow them away. You can't just
That too.
have a memo that nobody knows about.
What does it look like then, Joe, whenever you have these allegations and they continuously keep getting buried? It's not because of the public interest isn't there. It's there. What do you think happens? I mean, do they just say, "Oh, that's a secret combination," or do they have that whole forgive and forget attitude? A blip here and a blip there.
No, they're going to utilize their money and their power, the churches, to repress that and keep that from going public.
And there's plenty of that, right? I'll play this again.
Help. Believe the clergy were just not sympathetic.
The sociologist tells us at the root of the problem is the fact that men, in effect, in your church have authority over women, so that your clergymen tend to sympathize with the men, the abusers, instead of the abused.
That's one person's opinion. I don't think there's any substance to it.
Well, it's at least three persons' opinion.
A blip here, a blip there, a mistake here, a mistake there. But
that's
by and
according to
large,
B. Hinckley, right?
the welfare of women and children is as seriously considered as is the welfare of the men in this church, if not more so.
Wrong answer. A blip here, a blip there, my ass. Okay. Anyway. I know. It's heavy. So I'm going to continue on because I found quite a few things. On November 27th, 1991, Inside Edition reported the following concerning a woman who was interviewed. Quote, this woman who calls herself Janet says the horrendous ceremonies described in Bishop Pace's memo happened to her as a child, unquote. Janet made this startling statement, quote, I witnessed and had to participate in the murder of 8 children and saw one murdered, unquote. Janet also stated, quote, they made me chant over and over again, Satan is good, Satan has all power, unquote. The same woman supported Noemi, or I don't know how to say that, Mathis, assertion that doctors were involved in the abuse. This is true, I believe. Quote, I know that there were doctors and nobody knew, unquote. She further affirmed that those who abused her, quote, were dressed in black robes and would form a circle around a stone altar. And I would be put on the altar and they would do various sexual perversions, unquote. Then up here it says on January 18th, 1992, KSL, Channel 5, interviewed a woman called Jane. She revealed, quote, the people I was with do believe in Satan. They believe in worshiping him, unquote. Jane claimed that, quote, there were families involved. The children were initiated into the cult with very formal initiations. Every time that I went up there were sacrifices, human sacrifices, unquote.
The same program revealed the location of the purported sacrifices. Quote, the woman we call Jane remembers horrific things happening in this canyon near Camas, not too far from Salt Lake City. She believes her father and others raped, oh, I didn't code that, raped, tortured, and killed people in their worship of Satan, unquote. Sorry about that. Jane explained to the television audience, quote, I know it happened because I was forced to commit murder. I committed several sacrifices myself, and I became very good at it, unquote. The audience was shown a drawing made by Jane, which, quote, represents one of Jane's most painful memories in the Camas, I hope I'm saying that right, canyon. She remembers trying to escape a ritual site with a 5-year-old girl named Mary, unquote. Jane related, quote, I knew what was going to happen to her because I was older and I'd been through things. Mary tripped and the dogs got her, unquote. Oh my God. Jane gave this information concerning her family life. So this is Jane's family life, according to Jane. Quote, her parents were real involved in their church. Then there's a downside too. A lot of sexual abuse. The back bedroom where mom and dad slept. I remember the bed. I remember getting woke up in the mornings and brought into there. Mom was a very active part of the abuse from the time I was little. As far as the satanic stuff, I don't remember her being up in the mountains for the rituals. I do remember her taking me to the office building where a lot of abuse and programming took place, unquote. The television audience was then shown a building just a few blocks from the Mormon temple in Salt Lake City and told that Jane, quote, remembers the cult leaders using drugs and electrical shocks to program her, unquote. When she was taken there, Jane claimed that, quote, they wanted me to be like a robot for them. I would do what they wanted me to do and say what they wanted me to say, and they could control me, unquote. Jane's therapist, Janice Marcus, said that the cultists, quote, would give specific messages that could later be used as triggers in order to control what she did, unquote. I feel like this is what happened to Lori. I'm just saying. Mind control. Triggers. I don't know if that's why Tom Harrison's around. The television audience was also shown a healthcare facility, which is now closed, where Jane claims that she was abused by the cult many years ago. She became very upset when she entered one of the rooms because she felt that she remembered that they had, quote, quote, had a furnace here where they put bodies in, unquote. Okay. Anyways, Jane made these very sad comments about the effect ritualistic abuse had on her. Quote, I feel like everything that I held dear, that I believed in, has been ripped away. I'm not what I thought I was. My parents aren't what I thought they were. I don't want a witch hunt to happen. I just want the abuse of the children to stop, unquote. That's very generous of her, you know? Though Davis is rather suspicious of the claim that there's a vast satanic conspiracy dedicated to abusing and sacrificing children. Nevertheless, in his article, which I'm going to look this up when we get off of here, In the Name of Satan, Davis gives this chilling information obtained from one of the victims. Let me finish this real quick. Are y'all doing okay? Everybody okay? Let me go check on y'all.
We all good. We all
It is
good. We had somebody dip out because they couldn't handle the graphic content, and that's perfectly fine. If you can't listen to it, then don't force yourself to.
Yep. I just do it because, and I talk about it, and we need to talk about it because I can't imagine what it's like for the victims. And I say that because Tylee and JJ, I can't imagine what it was like to be so betrayed by not just their mom, but their uncle, and possibly, I believe, many of mom's new weird friends. Okay. That's just me. So Carol, not her real name, is a 37-year-old survivor who now remembers some horrifying childhood experiences. Quote, when I was about 8, my parents took me to an abandoned house up Immigration Canyon.
which is in the Salt Lake area. A black-robed woman greeted us. Then we were led inside the house through a trap door and down some steps to a very large underground room, unquote. Now, this made me just now think about the that room that was found by this the altar room right here. Let me track it where it is exactly. I think it's right in the beginning, actually. Oh wait,
Jehovah.
I'm not sure.
And to me, it's coming to him, having a relationship with him, putting my brokenness on the altar and telling him, like, I want to be healed, and just coming to him, being his lamb, his child of God, and being healed, kneeling at his feet,
Here it is.
his atoning grace and love.
We're seeing Kresha's brain work in real time.
House I've ever been in. This house was built by a very, very famous Utah celebrity. I call this an altar room.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to be doing a video diving more into what this house was, what this room was used for. And I'm hoping to have it finished up later today or tomorrow. But now going down this spiritual path, when I went through this house, this probably is back in 2020. I didn't really know what I was seeing. All I knew is this house just made me feel sick for some reason. Like I did not feel good being in there. I felt super creepy. There were a whole bunch of just really weird things in this house that I didn't understand. But now going down this path, I more fully understand what was going on in the house. Anyways, I'll be posting that later on today, hopefully, or maybe tomorrow. Stay tuned.
Yeah. Look at that.
And welcome back to
So that again is We Are the People, Utah. I mean, so to hear her say that she went to this canyon, black robed woman greeted us, and we were led through the house through a trap door and down some steps into a very large underground room. Okay. I'm just saying it's not far stretched. She says, in the room, which was lit by candles placed on a black cloth covering center stage, a black cloth, oh my gosh, which was lit by candles placed on a black cloth covered center stage altar. Carol remembers seeing many robed and hooded adults and children of both sexes, including infants. After the adults began a chanting church-type ceremony, the children were undressed and photographed nude. The girls were then gang raped. In Carol's case, quote, at least 25 times, unquote. And the older children forced to slit the throats and cannibalize the flesh of the sacrificed babies. Carol believes the grapes were part of her initiation to become a breeder for the satanic cult her parents belonged to. She remembers having birthed as an adolescent. Now, this is something that has been alleged against David Hamblin and his own daughters. 2 infants who were later ritually murdered in her presence, and in other instances having been urinated upon and forced to ingest bodily waste. That's also been alleged by the Hamblin daughters. Carol's quote-unquote memories are recent, disclosed under the influence of hypnosis while she was in treatment with a local therapist after being diagnosed with the multiple personality disorder, which is now DID. And just note here that David Hamblin would do hypnosis in his therapy. Okay, he was a psychologist, and so there's also those allegations from his daughters, the Hamblin daughters. Victimization stories similar to Carol's are being divulged to therapists, child protection workers, law enforcement officials, and religious counselors nationwide. Although a significant number of children and teenagers suspected of being abused in daycare and neighborhood settings have reported being exploited as satanic pawns, increasing numbers of predominantly female adult survivors, oh my gosh, have become the major first-hand source for accounts of sexual and physical child abuse colored by ritualistic satanic practices. And that's from Network, March 1992, page 14.
One of the saddest stories concerning satanic ritual abuse comes from Michelle Talmadge and her family. As we noted earlier, Talmadge committed unaliving because she could not live with the memories of abuse she suffered as a child. This makes me think of Stacy Cope and the way she was 76 pounds when she died. I'll say died. And how everyone was just so okay with it.
And died of hyperglycemia.
Yeah. I mean, she had type 2 because of, so then you picture Janice, you picture her spitting her food into a napkin because she already got the good taste out of it. And that's all she needed from the new, she didn't need the nutrients or anything. She just wanted the flavor. It's it's pretty scary and sick, and it just breeds. It seems, I don't know. It's like a petri dish. Fertile grounds. Okay, so on November 17th, 1991, this heartbreaking obituary appeared in the Herald Journal, published in Logan, Utah. Michelle Talmadge, 23, died early Saturday. A pretty girl with sparkling wit, Michelle brightened the lives of all who knew her. She showed her compassionate nature by working as a house mother for several severely handicapped children. In her childhood, Michelle was subject to severe ritualistic abuse. I don't think that's what it says in the article, but I think we're back on track. When these memories surfaced at a later age, she was never able to resolve the memories with who she wanted to be. After 4 years of unbearable pain, she left this life of her own accord. Oh, I guess it is. Funeral services will be held in the Logan 7th Ward Chapel with Bishop Dennis Griffin conducting. Burial will be in the Logan City Cemetery. And fortunately, Michelle wrote concerning her experiences with the satanic cult. Some of her writings were shown on KSL on January 18th, 1992. We quote the following extracts from Michelle's own account. I bet you they're not there today. They do a lot of 404 wiping. I'll tell you that. I'm Michelle Talmadge, and when I was young, I was involved in a cult. I was R-worded, beaten, tortured, saw several babies bleed to death after I was forced hand over hand to cut their throat. I saw my friends beat up and oh-my's. Lord, I have some repenting to do. I did many horrible things. I R-worded little children. I did it because I did not want to get hurt anymore. I just tried to pretend they weren't real so I could love them before I did anything bad to them. Because I love children so. But I didn't want to get hurt anymore. And I know my love was used against them by another part of me. That's so important. But that wasn't me. I remember all those things I did, every one of them. I am so horrified. I have nothing to hide behind. I did those things, every one of them. Quote, I thought Satanism was supposed to work better than I thought Satanism was supposed to work better than that. I thought I could have something to hide behind.
So there's part of that is strangely detached.
And strangely sounds like Lori.
That's where I was going with it.
Wow.
The part that doesn't sound like Lori is the part that says, I remember all of the things I did, every one of them. Lori won't admit to that, but she will say, Jesus knows there weren't any murder. Yes, I loved my children, and Jesus knows that, and Jesus knows there weren't any murders committed. Like that type of detached. That's exactly where I was going. Like your thought.
Yeah, I'm so glad because that's where mine went. And this part right here where it says, I thought Satanism was supposed to work better than that. I thought I could have something to hide behind. So I think we're getting Jesus mixed up because of what's happening during these abuses. These
up is down and down is up, light is dark and dark is light.
Left is right. Yes. I believe so, y'all. Big time. And I think that doing all the temple rituals and all the ceremonies and all the endowments and stuff, I've read so many accounts and so many comments of people who've been to the temple who say that, you know, these little demons can latch on to you as you're going in. And I think Melanie Gibbs said that they can latch on to you as you're going in and out of the temple. And I'm like, or maybe you're conjuring them up in the temple, you know, I don't know. I wasn't there, not going there. Anyways, so just, I thought Satanism, that is bizarre. It's like, I thought Satanism was supposed to work better than that. Well, okay.
Yeah, and
Inverted.
let's just talk a little bit about the trigger warning. And this was a little check that I had on Sunday afternoon when I had my interview with Lyndon Valdez's mom. Because, yeah, let me turn my camera on too. Because Lyndon's grandma was in chat, and she didn't know
Yeah,
that
I
the
saw.
autopsy report had been released yet.
Yeah.
And when I brought that up, she had a really hard time dealing with it. She's still having a hard time dealing with it. And I regret it because I could have shared it with her. I shared it with Mom. Mom could have shared it with her also.
She wasn't ready.
But regardless, we didn't go through the whole thing in gory detail about all the gory details. We went through the first 2 pages of it. We went over the summary report and we went over the first 2 pages. That was just the general where she was found, how she was found, not and the cause and manner of death. But it was still hard for Grandma to deal with. So if people in chat are having a hard time dealing with some of these, if it's triggering for you, it is okay to step away. You don't have to stay in chat and deal with your feelings. You can, like, if you want to come back, and watch later and take it on your own time and on your own terms, or if you don't ever want to come back and revisit this again, that is perfectly okay. You have to take care of you. And the self-check that I had was because I've been in true crime for so long that I see an autopsy report and I'm like, oh, let me get into that. Let me look at that. And not realizing that Grandma and London's friends who are still minors and other people, this is a very, very personal thing to them. And I'm going to be much more aware of that next time, I promise.
Yeah. I know I doubt you did it on purpose. I don't think you did, but that has been something. And I mean, I want to say Miss Liz, you know, that I saw when she was like, I'm gone, you know, like I'm gone, and that's okay. I'm glad she did that. She knows herself more than anybody. And every family member deals with this in their own way. And every person, you know, on the planet deals with this in their own way. And again, the closer you are, I think there's so many times I've had to just suck it up. And that's why I just kind of have my emotions walled off and I don't really get triggered. I can't say I don't get triggered. I didn't get triggered early on. And then towards the, I guess the second half of all the proceedings and everything, I started to get triggered, you know, and I'm just like, oh my God, why all of a sudden? And I mean, your brain can only handle so much. And the good thing about your brain is it tells you and it protects you, you know, so listen to your body is what I'm saying. Basically listen, you know when to push away. I can share the link with you here in a minute. I'll grab it and give it to you, Michaela. Yeah, it's fascinating. Please read it because I'm like, my mind is blown constantly. I can't imagine going through these things. And so to the rest of us, you know, it's like, if we're not triggered by this, you know, but if you're interested in this, and because it gives such a back history, you know, on what allegations, I'll say allegations, what's going on behind closed doors. I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you're here, you know.
And if it gives us clues, because we're talking about events that happened in 90, 91, 92, 89, you know.
Still going on, though.
Exactly. If it gives us clues into something that happened to your family 5.5 years ago, 6 years ago, then you and I owe it to ourselves to deep dive into it and to try and dissect it and break it down and draw the correlations.
And we can.
It didn't stop. It didn't stop in 2019. I guarantee.
No, because it's not been properly taken care of. You know, it's just been hushed and all that good stuff. So this is why. This is what happens. It just stews underneath the surface. Oh hell. Oh man. I just grabbed a link to share and see what happens. God dang it. Hold on, I'll share it in just a second. I just want to find my spot. Bountiful is what I've typed in earlier. Let's try that. Except I had to go way up here. Get back to that. Sorry, y'all. Okay, Jane. We got Jane. I don't know. Hold on. Oh, dang. Hold on. Let me back that up a little bit. Oh, no. Okay, no. I'm looking. It wasn't that far up. All right, let me go throw this link over there. It is to, I don't have, I'm not good enough to type the name into, so just know it's that book or PDF from the Tanners. It's called Satanic Ritual Abuse Digital, is what it says. Okay. I got to try and find where we were. Where did my highlights go to? They went away too. Oh no, there they are. No, that's not highlights. That's the word I looked up. Oh, I definitely don't want to see a chapter named Deep Penetration. No, yeah. I don't want to see that.
No, thank you.
Okay, here we go. Right around here. Okay, there's Michelle Talmadge. Okay, I found it. Yay. Right? Okay. Okay, so it says Michelle also revealed the grisly details of the abuse she suffered to her parents. And a month after her death, part of her story was printed in the Cash Citizen. At age 23, Michelle Talmadge told her parents her worst nightmares were realities. Quote, she wrote once that she was born to suffer, and truer words were never written, unquote. I'm sorry. said her mother, Mary Talmadge, quote, so much happened to her. It was just incredible, unquote. That reminded me of when Lori testified in one of those group meetings that they had at Melanie Gibbs' house, where she said, if it comes at you once, if it comes at you twice, you know, that thing. She said that Satan was always chasing her since she was a little girl. And that was very curious to me, because this girl, Michelle, said that she was born to suffer. And I mean, come on. And it also reminds me of Ruby Frankie when she says, I'm not a naughty girl. I'm not a naughty girl. And it's so odd for her, a grown woman, to say that when she has, in fact, been a naughty mother, you know? It just strikes me as odd. And so I believe there are these kind of backgrounds with these women and Chad and other, you know, other abusers. And Jody for sure, in my opinion. Mary and her husband, John, buried their daughter 1 month ago after Michelle succumbed to a 4-year battle against, quote, unbearably painful, unquote, memories that began to surface in her late teens. The Talmadges said her recollections, which detailed severe ritualistic abuse by a satanic cult throughout her life, indicate a serious problem in the valley. Quote, it's happening a lot more than you think. It's quite extensive in Cache Valley, unquote, Mary said. Quote, there is a great deal of denial in Utah and not much help is available, unquote. For Michelle, the battle that ended in unaliving began when she was very young. Sitting in their Logan home, among letters Michelle had written and documents of the events that led to her death, the Talmadges described her ordeal.
Quote, "We had a sense something was wrong when she was about 8 years old," unquote, Mary recalled. Quote, "She never did things as you expected. She always went off at a strange angle," unquote. I always do that. When Michelle was in 3rd grade, Mary volunteered to work at her school. At that time, unknown to them, Michelle was being molested by older children in the neighborhood, but could not tell her parents, Mary said. Her parents said she was gang raped before she reached puberty. They gave the name of Michelle's assailants to authorities in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints and to police. I was like, okay. They also notified police in California, where some of the boys had relocated. But because Michelle had repressed her memories of the incident, because this is what they count on whenever they're shattering the mind of a child and causing them to dissociate initially. It's separate. That's when your brain starts parting out, I guess you could say. And so you store those memories and they're compartmentalized, and so that you're able to function, because you can't fathom, as a child, you can't even fathom what is happening at that moment. You dissociate. And this is crazy, because then once you have more parts, more shattered parts, more abuses, more traumas, that's what goes into that, creating that, then you're easier to control and manipulate that way. It's trauma-based mind control is what that is. Anyway, so
Okay, so that kind of leads into a little text conversation that you and I just had about Chad and Lori. I wonder how compartmentalized and disassociated her brain was, like different parts of her brain, and how subject she was to
yes,
mind control.
absolutely. Chad too. I believe Chad too. Because he's professing. It reminded me of when David Hamblin recently has stated that he addressed satanic ritual abuse claims made by his daughters and others. And so it's interesting how he framed it, because it's pretty gross. And I say gross, but let me pull it up. I have it pulled up. I have something on that. Right on top of that, Rose. Okay. Let me open it. So David Hamblin says in his video, with this group of people that he's giving therapy to. Okay. So this is on his YouTube channel recently. He says, "I want to invite people to give us feedback on the healing circle." And anyway, so he's just kind of fishing around for that, talking back and forth. And then, let me find it. Okay. I found it. The speaker. Okay. So David's personal revelation. It says, discovered a severe spiritual this is David's words. He discovered a severe spiritual phenomenon where individuals were being overtaken and lost. And he says that he sought divine help and began working with victims of satanic ritual abuse. He notes that SRA is a denied phenomenon by many psychologists and religions, including the Mormon faith, despite its presence in their scriptures. That's according to David. He describes the phenomenon as very scary and worked with victims for years. And then I'm just reading the understanding and countering. Hamblin aimed to understand and counter the spiritual programming of children who were R-worded, stating that such trauma leaves them open to programming. You don't say, Davy. SRA memories. This is SRA memories. Almost all memories related to satanic ritual abuse include childhood R-word, leading to significant shame for survivors who feel negative about their sexuality and may give up on life. And they bank on that shit. Challenges in memory retrieval. Recalling these memories is difficult. Hamblin claims to have had limited skills. I don't think so. And tools at the time. and consequently ended up having sexual relations with some clients. Outcomes with clients have been varied. This approach proved beneficial for some individuals, while it was less effective for others, partly due to Hamlin's being overwhelmed and experiencing personal triggers. So he also deals with peyote. So the peyote's impact during a time of despair, the speaker, which is David Hamlin, attended a Native American church peyote sacrament meeting, which was a revelation.
Wait,
Peyote is
what? I've
a
never been
revelation.
invited. I've never been invited to one of those.
You probably will have a bunch of revelations. You know what I'm saying? Because
A
they're
peyote
evoked.
sacrament meeting.
You
That sounds like fun.
know, he's exploiting this too, though, in my opinion. Because oh crap, I didn't mean to do that. Because he's not Native American, and yet he's doing this so that he can have peyote on hand and disperse it, have a dispensary. He says at the end of this video. Anyways, yeah. So Revelation, peyote is described as a sacred herb that saved my life, giving the speaker, which is David, the strength to move forward despite mistakes. Consequences of his actions. So David's actions led to the surrender of a psychology license because he had to, the end of a marriage, financial ruin, and estrangement from children. False narrative. He says that the ex-wife and her father-in-law allegedly created a false narrative portraying David as a Satanist, despite David's efforts to stand against it. So he's like, they're the ones who said I'm a Satanist, and I'm not. I'm not. That's them saying that I am. Rebuilding life. Despite devastation, David was able to rebuild life with the help of peyote. Daughter's accusation and arrest. In late 2013, the speakers, which is David, I didn't go change all these things yet. David's daughter called, accusing David of raping her as a child and demanding an apology. David, having no memory of such an act and vehemently denying it, nevertheless apologized following, quote, 4 steps of healing, unquote. This was a quote unquote pretext call that led to David's arrest. Because he admitted, he said, I can't promise you, wait, how do you say that? I can't say that a part of me or something inside of me didn't do it. It's the same thing that you're hearing from Chad, the same thing that you're hearing from Lori, except they're not saying my parts did it, not yet. But it's what it seems like. Because it's like it gives them plausible deniability so that they can't say they didn't do it. I know I didn't do it, but maybe one of my parts did. Maybe one of my demons did, And that seems like a scapegoat.
Well, that's been used throughout the ages.
Well, I mean, but then had parts theory been around forever? It's an actual parts theory, is what David Hamlin calls it.
A parts theory?
He calls it the parts theory. So, I mean, we need to be aware of this kind of stuff, because if this is what's going to be coming out of perpetrators' mouths, they still have to be held accountable for it.
Right. And I've listened to so many interrogations and interviews of suspects who have said, who have pretended that they heard voices and the voices told them to do it. And they were hearing voices actually during the interrogation. And 99% of the time, it's just an act to avoid culpability and responsibility.
Yeah.
99% of the time. Occasionally, you do have that crazy person, and obviously we have laws, and they vary state to state, but based on mental competence. So there's mental competence, and then there's not guilty by reason of insanity type of plea, and those are a rarity, but they do exist.
Yeah. We worried about this with Lori because of how she was deemed incompetent for 10 months. But that just, I mean, the bar is so low. I mean, not only did she assist in her damn defense, she was her defense. Okay. I'm talking like in Idaho, she was not her own defense attorney, but eventually led into that. I think from her experiences and not being able to just be the star of the show. You know, I don't
Right.
think me and my parents don't believe that she was ever incompetent.
Yeah, and when I was actually at, and this is where I met Trace on the case. Hi, sister from another mister. Trace in the case, and I met at her December 5th and 6th hearings last year. And the first one was her competency hearing. And competency is just, can you assist in your defense?
Yeah.
Can you assist in your own defense? Has nothing to do with your state of mind at the time of the crime. It's right now, are you competent to assist in your defense? And 2 different doctors found her that she was competent. And then the December 6th one was to appoint her as her own counsel. And Judge Boreski probably still regrets that to this day, that he let her represent herself. But he did an amazing job dealing with it anyways.
Right. I think he did too. I couldn't remember his name yesterday for some reason. I was like, oh, shame on me. Some days I just don't have the memory. Well, I want to read just a little bit more of David.
Sure.
Hamblin.
Yeah. Carry on.
So the recorded call has been edited and put online, according to David, allegedly to make David look negative and stupid. The original call, heard by others, contained more positive love and was significantly different from the edited version. That's according to David's girlfriend, Sabrina, actually. Weaponizing children. The divorce process involved the ex-wife, which is Rosie, and her father, quote, weaponizing the children, unquote, against David, causing immense suffering to the children. I think it was probably allegedly more like the abuse. Probably who did that. Because they don't talk. They, it's, what do you call that? Whenever you stop talking to your parents or to somebody. Megan calls it something. I can't think of it right now. Anyway, they shut off contact with the parents, both parents. I don't know about now, but in the documents that I do read, they did. And it says legal proceedings and dismissal. David was jailed for 6 months, but the prosecution never produced discovery. After many continuances, the case was finally dismissed with prejudice. Okay. Or without prejudice.
With prejudice means it can't be filed again, right?
I mean, without. Well, one of them, I don't know. I'll have to go look now. I'm now doubting myself.
With prejudice means it can't be filed again, I do believe.
I want to say one of them is that, and the other one is.
Well, yeah. One is one and the other is the other.
He has different cases, is what I'm talking about.
Oh, okay.
So I want to say maybe one of the cases was dismissed with, and the other case was dismissed without. I think.
I thought you meant with prejudice meant one thing, and without prejudice meant the other.
No, I didn't know how to. I'm just like the thing and the other thing, and you're supposed to just know what things I'm talking about. Oh my God.
I'm almost there.
Oh man. This thing's nuts. Career as a shaman. David has since worked as a shaman for many years, studying with a master shaman from Mexico and with the Lakota who adopted David into their practices and included them under the umbrella of the South Dakota Native American Church. And so the Lakota teachings, David learned to conduct Lakota meetings and sing their songs properly, an achievement as most Native American church members are born into the tradition. He was not born into the tradition because he's not Native American. Loophole. The fundamental issue with the children who have been R-worded, I would say SRA'd, whatever, is that the trauma opens them up spiritually, making them susceptible to programming. Most SRA memories involve childhood R-word, leading to shame and a desire not to exist for survivors. David Hamblin, a psychologist, initially had limited skills and tools when trying to help clients recover these memories. He admits to engaging in SA with some clients, believing it helped a couple but didn't work for others. Sorry to laugh, but it's like, that sounds ridiculous. He acknowledges this was a mistake and it was triggered by his own trauma. So it's his trauma made him do it. During a difficult time, David was invited to a Native American church peyote sacrament meeting, which he described as life-saving. He states that peyote is a sacred herb that gave him the strength to continue despite his mistakes, emphasizing that his actions were driven by compassion, not sexual desire, y'all. And his wife at the time met his needs. Apparently, so did his children, allegedly. I don't know. And other people's children, allegedly. He was divinely informed that his actions would be revealed, leading him to surrender his psychology license, ending his career, marriage, and financial stability. The worst consequence was becoming estranged from his children. And so I wrote his ex-wife, Rosie, and her father, is something Lloyd Anderson, I forget the other name, created a false narrative, accusing him of being a Satanist, despite his efforts to stand against it, according to David. He learned a lot, but was devastated by the experience. Peyote helped him rebuild his life over 30 years. In late 2013, his daughter called him crying, seeking a relationship, but demanding an apology for him allegedly R-wording her as a child. David claims he has no memory of this and states he would never do such a thing. However, he acknowledges that SRA survivors can have split-off parts of themselves programmed to perform actions the conscious self is unaware of. So that right there is key, I believe, because it's like a repeat of what I've already said, but it's in the right text or tense. Anyways, during the call, he followed the 4 steps of healing, apologizing for R-wording her, despite his lack of memory, stating it wasn't his experience. He was loving and acknowledging, but the police arrested him after the call, which is referred to as a pretext call.
So he said, I don't remember doing it, but I'm sorry I did it. And I don't remember doing it.
Yep. Yeah, I'm gonna have to look up this 4 steps of healing because it sounds like the 12 steps, So he says during the call, he followed the 4 steps of healing, apologizing for R-wording her despite his lack of memory, stating it wasn't his experience.
What? It wasn't his experience. Mm-hmm. I have no memory of it, but I'm going to apologize for it anyway because it's part of.
That's why he was arrested. And then, but y'all, and I also found out that the Utah, oh my gosh, I'm trying to remember what police it was, the name of the police. Davis County, I think, or I don't know, whatever police is handling one of the places where this took place. I know that doesn't make sense, but they put out a letter on their website stating that they were so vehemently against this about the prosecution releasing David Hamblin and Rosie Hamblin too back, out of jail. Because they said that nowhere in this did the prosecutors ever do an evidentiary hearing. And so the police were never called to do an evidentiary hearing to fill in the blanks, so to speak. Also, so they're pretty pissed off about this too, which I was like, come on, cops, let's do better. And so
yeah, I say that a lot.
They seem to be trying, but it seems to go like a pinball game,
Yeah, and I think we're delving into the satanic portion of the LDS Church and that but there's also another sub segment of the church, and maybe it's associated with the satanic part of it. But it's the gaslighting church of the LDS.
There you go.
They all try to gaslight us. Chad tried to gaslight us. Lori tried to gaslight us. Melanie tried to gaslight the cops in American Fork.
Mm-hmm. And us too, if she'd have a chance.
Melanie Gibb tried to gaslight the cops when she went in for her interview, and then she gaslighted Nate Eaton in that East Idaho News interview.
Everybody.
I mean, it's the gaslighting church of the LDS.
Themselves, even.
Yes.
It's like they convinced themselves that it was just a part of them or just something that they buried so deep down inside they can't come to terms with it or something. I don't know. I mean, I hope it haunts them the rest of their damn lives, but it's not for me to deal with. It's like, I can't do this for you. Thank y'all. Yeah. Angela agrees. Yes, gaslighting. Exactly. And it makes sense, Joe. It's hard. We're trying.
I wish I could.
Yo, Miss Woozy says, I've been here for 2 whole minutes and I think David is full of shit. And I said it. Isn't he? He's a mess, that one. And so, yeah, he admitted to it, and that's why the police were there to arrest him. Okay. But so this pretext call has recently been released online, according to Sabrina, but it's been online since 2021. I don't know how she terms things. Sabrina, who listened to the original call, this is David's girlfriend, who looks 20, believes the online version is heavily edited to portray her boyfriend, David, negatively, removing positive and loving aspects. Okay. What is wrong with all that right there? What is wrong with what was just said? It's like you have to look at the whole thing in context to know that he also loved her and was positive with his daughter.
And R-ing her was just a part of his compartmentalized personality that
was generational done to him too. Yeah.
Right.
So it's like they're being persecuted. Do you see what I'm saying? Like, it happened to me, and so I still love you. It's so sick. Anyways, the divorce process and the manipulation of the children against David Hamblin were brutal, according to them. His ex-wife, Rosie, and her father weaponized the children, that's not what led to the estrangement, I promise. After his arrest, the prosecution never produced discovery, information sharing during the 1.5-year trial. This is according to David. He was released after 6 months, and the case was eventually dismissed after multiple continuances. He has since worked as a shaman for many years, studying with a master shaman from Mexico and the Lakota, including his group under the umbrella of the South Dakota Native American Church, and they learned to conduct meetings and sing songs the Lakota way. What came to it in David's 50s? I don't know what that means. Tony's boyfriend, Eldon, is a great shaman. In 2023, he was charged, like David says, I was charged again. They said it was the same case they had brought before 2.5 years ago. In February, the case was dismissed again over evidence issues. They had a lot of evidence, tens of thousands of pages, but it wasn't relevant. David says, my lawyer figured out that they held back part of the police report, which totally contradicted the charges and the theory of the case as presented by the prosecutors, according to David.
Well, police reports are not admissible in court. They are hearsay, but a police officer who is called to the stand can review his police report to refresh his memory.
If they ever hold an evidentiary hearing.
Right, exactly.
Okay. So he says, the case was dismissed. Oh, wait. He says, my lawyer figured out that they held back part of the police report. I already said all that. The case was dismissed with prejudice. This is according to David. He's not talking about all his cases anyways. And the judge ruled that his constitutional rights had been violated.
That means he cannot be brought to charges again on the same charges. It's gone forever. With that prejudice means it cannot be filed again in court by the prosecutor.
Look down here, it says a second case is still pending. So I'm just saying.
Gotcha.
He said this wasn't a technicality. And so that makes me think it was so a technicality. Okay. They were hiding exculpatory evidence that would have shortened the whole thing if it had been known, he says. It was misconduct on the part of the judicial system, and that ended that case. And then he says a second case is still pending and that he's confident it's going to work out for him for a number of reasons, which he can't discuss because it's ongoing. Then he says, this phenomenon is very tricky, which is why we don't go around accusing people because we don't know. That's really helpful in his case. He also says, we don't know if that young man who had an inappropriate relations with Christine is evil or just stupid, is what David said. Christine is in his group, one of his little people going to him for therapy. So they don't know if that young man who was inappropriate with her was evil or just stupid. He says, we do know that his negative energy is in communication with whatever negative energy she has, and they cooperate.
Oh, negative, like light and dark.
A double negative. Don't they cancel each other out?
They do. They actually should repel.
Right. But that's not a crime. Everybody has that problem. Even people who haven't been victims or haven't survived SRA.
What young man is he talking about that had relations with Christine?
Christine is somebody he's talking to in this transcript, in this video that was part of his group that day.
Okay.
And so it's just, I've ran this through to create bullet points. And so this is how it does it.
Right. Okay.
So he's talking to the lady who's in his group.
And she reports in the group, like a group therapy type of thing.
I guess
that young man had quote unquote inappropriate relations with her.
Yeah.
What does that mean, inappropriate?
And well, I don't want to say it. He raped her. Okay.
Right. So that's illegal. That's also, that's not just inappropriate. I know. That's illegal. That's a crime.
It is a crime. But he says right here, but that's not a crime. Everybody has that problem. Even people who haven't been victims or haven't survived SRA.
Okay.
You mean?
Oh my God. All right.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say.
Gaslighting.
It's nuts, huh?
Gaslighting. If you say 2 paragraphs above inappropriate, which can be interpreted as illegal, and then 2 paragraphs later you said that's not a crime, doesn't make it not a crime.
You can trust my words that he projects, and so it's the opposite of what they actually say. That's what I think. It makes sense to me. Like Pammy says, make it make sense. That's how you make sense about all the things that are said by these people that are obviously thinking the same way. Like Lori, when she says this, it's really the opposite of that. When Tim Ballard says something, it's really the opposite of that. So when he's saving children, I doubt it. I think he's not saving children. And it's kind of goes back to like Crowley, Aleister Crowley, how he did everything backwards. He learned everything backwards. Okay. And it's like they're able to speak this language that sometimes, like whenever I first hear it, I'm like, okay, well, nothing like red flags comes flying out of it, but it's coming out of them. And anyways, it just has bothered me all these years. And I'm like, what is that? It's like an inversion of our language. It's like, so like Summer Shiflett, whenever she would come out and say something publicly, it sounded like it's reversed. It's like when you go back and analyze just a paragraph or something, it's like they say all the keywords or the, hashtag worthy words that make it sound nice. Okay, hold on. This is something. Okay, so here's an example. You'll hear people like this say, but my children love me and I don't know, they don't want to live without me. And I mean, I'm their mother and I don't have a good example on hand. So I'm just trying to simplify here. But really what they should be saying is, I love my children. I'm their mother. They shouldn't be without me. I shouldn't be without them. It's like they say the same thing using the same words, I'll say. But instead of them loving their children, it's their children love them.
Right.
And I even noticed this with Brandon's statement. He said this a lot.
What did he say?
I mean, he was saying that his children, during his what do you call it?
Victim impact statement.
Yep. And I mean, I have to go back and analyze that, but I'm just like, whoa, how he didn't do anything nefarious with his kids, but it's like this certain type of inversion. I don't know what else. I'm still, it's a working theory here, so I don't really know what that is yet. But it's very Aleister Crowley-like, in my opinion. It's inverted. So, like I said, it's like they're saying the right words,
but
and so that's why it's not very red flag to us. It doesn't really stand out. But when you go back and you analyze it some more, I've realized this, that it's not I love my children. It's my children love me and they need me.
Very interesting theory.
Isn't
you need
it?
to explore that more.
Isn't it though? Like, I mean, I said this to Mom the other day when we were texting back and forth. I was like, and I didn't quite know how to explain it, but it's a manipulation tactic. The arrogance of thinking because they say it. Yeah.
Yeah. You said, Mom, I know you love me.
I was like, yeah, you need me. Mom, you need me.
You love me and you need me.
This is maybe more apparent. Oh, and also, I don't know what it's called, but I know that David's dad, Robert Hamblin, he actually wrote a thesis or maybe a book. I forget what it was. I ran across it a long time ago, doing this with language. So, okay, yeah, I can't wait to pull all that shit together. Oh my God. Yeah, because that would be interesting, just to kind of see how this could be changing the landscape completely.
And give us insight into the people that are manipulating whoever they're talking to for whatever reason.
Yeah. I'm sorry, I'm laughing at MJ Van. Pretendians. Perfect. Pretendians. Mm-hmm. They're exploiters, man. They will exploit everything. I don't care what it is. It all the way down. They exploit it. And then they're like, what did I do? I didn't do anything wrong. What are you talking about? Anyways. And so let me finish with this real quick. It says, so he says, we do know that I said that, but that's not a crime. Everybody has that problem, talking about, we do know that negative energy is in communication with whatever negative energy she has. So his is, anyways, and they cooperate. But that's not a crime. Everybody has that problem, even people who haven't been victims or haven't survived SRA. The negative energy in people communicates with other people. The issue really is to clean up your inner world. Sabrina, who's David's girlfriend, has worked hard at that in her case, David says, and I've worked hard at that in my case, says David. That's what we do, and we are passionate about it. Our work helps us learn how to help other people do theirs. That's scary. You don't have a license, but you're doing what Ruby and Jody were doing under a false pretense, like you're telling people you're helping them heal. And you're not, you're a fraud. You're not even healed, like you don't even know, you won't even admit to your own, well, I guess he would kind of, he did up there in the comments, earlier up there in the comments, but only a part of him. He didn't have that experience. You know what I'm saying? So it's really effed up. It's so messed up. Over the years, he says, you develop some understanding. And so it says David was effectively helping people recover who had been through satanic ritual abuse. And it says, when you're standing up against that type of fragmented organization that has a lot of resources, he's talking about the church, they often target those who are helping. Oh my God, make it make sense, Pammy. He says, I know 3 other people, the kindest people, who were coming out against satanic ritual abuse, who were actively involved in helping people get free from that, who were targeted by people in power and made to be the very thing that they were helping against. This is more common than I would have believed, said David. This is a big force that has been trying to stop transformation out of such negative energy. He says, less than a year ago, a mutual friend set up Sabrina and him. He told Sabrina, but actually, he says the friend told Sabrina, but didn't tell him. And he didn't know that this lady was looking for somebody. He didn't know that his girlfriend was looking for somebody. After our second visit, he says, I was told by the Holy Spirit, oh, Lord, what do you think of Sabrina, Holy Spirit?
The Holy Spirit's asking, like, pass or fail. Left,
It's
swipe
like,
left, or
I
swipe
dream of
left, or
Genie.
swipe right. Oh my gosh.
So this got me when he said, I said, she's attractive enough, but she comes from a different tradition of shamanism and she's kind of edgy.
Well,
Oh my
swipe
God.
right for now. Swipe right for now, and we'll check it out, and we can always swipe left later.
We need a Holy Spirit app.
Holy Spirit dating app.
Service. Yep. Oh my gosh. No.
we could make some money off of that. I'm telling you right now.
Yeah,
We
but
just
we're not
came up with
exploiters like them. Yeah. That's the difference. So if they're watching, we just gave them ideas and they are on it now.
Oh no. Dang it.
And they're industrious people, man. I mean, Chad has Chad has a website from prison, from death row. I don't. I'm like, what?
Yeah. You know what creeped me out the most about that was your AI voice that you had for him just like made me physically ill because it was so close that I was it was so close. I was like, did you put into AI like give me the voice of a douche canoe that's on death row?
Douche canoe, voice option 1. Sins of the Gens. Yeah, it did. My mom was like, that has to be Mark, the youngest. Or she was like, maybe it's Seth. And I was like, Mom, it's my AI voice. And now it's like, I don't even know if I need to upload the rest of these, because she listened to it on my live stream. And so I was like, it's none of those. It's Chad. I created it from Chad giving his patriarchal blessing to Alex. And I mean, it was a horrible sample, but I listened to somebody else today, Tony Bruschi, hidden. I forget the name of his channel, but Tony Bruschi, Hidden Killers. That's it. He did AI, created a voice off of Chad, and it didn't sound nothing like him. And I was like, oh, well, I'd rather his, Magic 8 Ball, Holy Spirit says, wrong turn. I don't know. Yeah. So the Holy Spirit said, oh, David, I wouldn't let that stop me if I were you. Anyways, there's that. You heard it here.
Oh my gosh. He must have been in one of those peyote sacrament meetings when
Revelation. Revelators, mount up. Oh my gosh. So then he says, I realized that this might be a candidate for what I've been praying for. So he's talking about his girlfriend, his now girlfriend. We got together, he says, and talked over the phone and in a Zoom group like this for SRA survivors. Oh, that's gross. With a few bumps, we finally revealed our interest in each other, and things have worked out super well. You should see this chick. She is
not like the Adelson bumps.
No, not yet, or not that we know of. And so he says, he's talking about Sabrina. He said she had checked out the stuff about him on the internet before she met him and had dismissed it. Well, no shit. She trusted the friend who introduced her to David, who said, quote, this is a wonderful man who has been severely targeted, unquote. So when she met David, she trusted her intuition and followed the Holy Spirit. So this is what I'm saying. It's inverted. Well, and that's not the right Holy Spirit, y'all.
This is actually really, really critical. This line right here, follow the Holy Spirit, is critical to people who are in the church. And because that is a Mormon dog whistle. Followed the Holy Spirit, like the burning in your bosom. You can't trust the
your own
burning in
intuition.
your bosom. You can't. But that's what they attribute to the Holy Spirit. When the Holy
Yes.
Spirit confirms something, you have a burning in your bosom.
It's like the angel and devil analogy on each shoulder. And of course it's going to tell you to trust him because you want to be with him. So you're going to go damn do it, you know? Like that's how I look at it. It's not a Holy Spirit. It's just your own thoughts and desires.
Right.
And then they act
that kind of goes with a lot of religions too. That's not just,
she's shaman.
singular to Mormonism.
I mean, she's he says, but she comes from a different tradition of shamanism. So she's not, I don't believe she's from the church. But yeah, so you're right. But when you're taught all your life that to attribute it to quote unquote Holy Spirit, and you don't have like the right fundamental, I don't know, understanding about what that is, then this is bad. And that's what scared me is like, how many people are we dealing with who are inverted just like this, who say Jesus and praise Jesus and Jesus is Lord. I mean, oh my God, the Mormons for sure are the most devout people. Okay. But it's not the right Christ. It's not the right belief. It's inverted. How many, and I mean, outside of Mormonism, how many people have this idea and how many people go through this kind of abuse where they're told to pray to Jesus. And so they're praying to Jesus to save them from being abused. And then instead of Jesus showing up, Satan shows up. And that creates like this, what do they call that? Starts with an S. Oh my God. It'll come to me. Oh my gosh, what's it called? Stockholm syndrome. Where you start to side with your abuser. That's what it is. So I don't know if that's part of what's going on, at least in these kind of cases, it seems. And okay, so it says when she met David, she trusted her intuition and followed thy Holy Spirit. She had no idea that a partner existed at this level who could accept her for who she is. But yet here she is accepting him for who he is. So you get what you put out, girl. He was able to provide support for her own recovery from SRA. So she's a victim, allegedly. Support she had never had before. Takes one to know one. It was beyond the beyond of how that's a case where 1 + 1 = 3 or more. I don't know. This is possible if you have two people who are willing to own their energy and who are dedicated not to blaming other people, but to connecting to the divine, where transformation comes first above all else. And love comes first above all else. So anyways.
Beyond the beyond has to be some kind of code word, code language. Beyond the beyond, 1 + 1 = 3. There's something coded in there.
Probably. But I think it was her saying it. I'm not sure. I'd have to go back and look at the video to see. So David says, so that's my journey. And I'm willing to help anybody who wants to, man or woman, be a roadmap man, just sharing this sacred medicine, the Native American way, if you'll study and learn how to do it properly. And it's a beautiful tradition. And it's one that is not accessible to white people, except for David. But we have an authentic Native American church for whoever of whatever color. And that's one of my passions. And so I'm willing to teach people how to do that and to help them dispense the sacred sacrament. And I'll say that especially women need women running these Native American. There's called sacred sacrament meetings because it's about the sacrament peyote and water, fresh water. And women in particular need that safety of other women. And like his girlfriend. And so I'll share everything. And Sabrina with me will share the knowledge and wisdom of how to conduct those ceremonies in a good way. And that's right in a good way. What? Mm-mm. Anyways. Oh, he says right here, yeah, 3 of us were arrested for sharing peyote. I was arrested for having a peyote button in a pouch like this. This isn't a pouch, but a medicine bag. Had a peyote button in my drawer in my locked house, and my minor children broke in, having made an agreement with the police. And this is something demonstrable now, led by my ex-wife who got them to do it. And they broke in and got the peyote button and gave it to the police. I was arrested for that as a drug dealer, and I would have gone to prison for 15 years if I was found guilty. If I went to the Utah Supreme Court and their ruling was 90% in our favor, and it took 4 years for that to happen, it took a while to get up through the different courts, but they found in our favor, and that was in 2004, I think. And it was after that Utah passed the law against peyote use unless you were a reservation Native American. That's why he is, which is unconstitutional because we all have equal rights. And so, it's a racial law. And anyway, that's what happened there. Then he says, and so that person says, oh, so it wasn't? David Hamlin says, well, it's against the law in Utah, and I've been doing it anyways. Okay. I'm just saying, he admits to breaking the law. He don't care. He's going to do it anyways.
How many laws? How many laws is he breaking?
Tons. Moral. He's breaking so many ethical, moral, criminal, in my opinion, and he's a loopholer. And so he says he's helping. So this wasn't because I think the house arrest wasn't because of, healing people from murmuring is what it was called. He says, this latest time that I was arrested, I was again in jail for 6 months, then on house arrest for another almost 2 years before the case was dismissed for investigatorial misconduct. The judge wouldn't let me have peyote during that time. And I didn't make an issue out of it with the advice of counsel.
The judge wouldn't let me have peyote?
Yeah.
The judge wouldn't let me have peyote.
Right. And so, because
is that like Koberger's vegan diet? They wouldn't let him have his peyote.
Yeah, that's exactly what that is. And so anyways, I've found so many things in here, and I haven't, of course, you can see I haven't corrected it or whatever, and so this lady right here, she says, speaker number 3, I was just so glad that you shared that today, talking about the SRA, all the allegations against him. She says, because I actually, maybe a couple days ago, started reading online about all the court stuff. I'm an attorney, and I just started tripping out. I didn't question anything that we've learned or felt, but I was feeling bothered that I didn't have this information and just not knowing what was real or whatever. So it's kind of like he's not telling them when they're signing up and paying him, I'm sure, boatloads of money, and then trusting them with all of their memories and pain and problems that they've had, personal things, that's a betrayal. It's like, what do you say whenever it's just like being in the church and not knowing what you're signed up for? What is that? Informed consent. So she says that she reached out to Melody, another person, and she kind of had a little bit of backstory, but not a lot. And that helped me feel better just to come today. But I just really appreciate you explaining it from your view. And it just helped me to really settle into feeling like, what I wanted to believe. That's it. That's what you wanted to believe.
What? It helped me settle into feeling like, what I wanted to believe.
Which was that it was like this twisted.
But how do you settle into a feeling of what I wanted to believe?
She wants to believe that he's not this rapist of his children. He's not this abuser. And
so he's helping her to settle into that. If you have to settle into any type of a feeling,
check yourself. Yeah.
Oh, man. This is I can't take
Yeah.
off my hat because I got to get on camera again before we're done. But I want to take off my hat and throw it.
Oh no. So yeah, she says what I wanted to. Okay, whoa. But I just really appreciate you explaining it from your view, and it just helped me to really settle into feeling like what I wanted to believe, which was that it was like this twisted thing and stuff. So I just wanted to thank you for just being honest. And I know that's probably not easy to share, like Tony said, because for me, I wanted to keep working with you guys and learning and growing. And so I was like, oh no, this is just going to get in the way for me. So it just felt good to kind of hear your story to kind of clear that up for me. No. And he says, David says, I've had to tell hundreds of people about this. I've told it many times. And the transformations are what make it easier. What transformations? Not how many times I have to tell it. I've felt a lot of peace coming into this healing circle today. I was going to tell it last week, and Sabrina thought it would be better. I had a feeling that somebody would find out. I'd rather you hear it from me first, but at the same time, things happen the way they happen. And you went through a test or a trial of your own. And good job. I wouldn't blame you if you were disaffected, but I'll tell you that most people who know me and get to know me don't care. And those who do, generally, this is us now. He's talking about everybody like me. And those who do generally want to run away from some problem on the inside that they don't want to face, because I'll help people face it if they show up, right?
Wow.
So
He
some
has
people are
some kind of an ego. Oh
yes.
my gosh.
Yeah. So unchecked, unfiltered. So some people are glad to find out so they can run away. Other people just have compassion, which I believe I would have on anyone in a similarly situated way. Sounds like Chad Daybell yesterday, like in their letters. So thank you. Thank you for how you handled that. Actually,
Thank you that you ended up agreeing with me, is what he just said.
And dismissing your own intuition. And you're an attorney and you dug into it, and maybe now you're not going to. So thank you. Thank you for how you handled that. And it's nice that you could approach Melody and get her take on it. Thank you for coming today. And I'm glad that I was able to speak to your concerns, and you've been very respectful, and I appreciate that. Respect is a big thing in the Native American tradition. And I'll say that people have been very disrespectful towards me online, as you can see. Shamanism is taught through in-person all-night services with the Native American Church.
People have been disrespectful to me online.
Mm-hmm. That'd be me,
dude,
and you,
dude,
and
dude.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's just messed up. Right here, some of these people who have a rage towards me, it really has to do with trying to control something inside of them that they project on me. Fuck off.
So let's talk a little bit about the online disrespect thing, and it does exist. And Delphi is like a good example of that.
That's a good point.
You have people who came at the families of Abby and Libby. You have people that came at Mike and Becky Patty. You have people that came at Kelsey, who is Libby's sister. You have people that came at all of the family members at one form or another, when we were all trying to figure out who was Bridge Guy, who is the person responsible for this. Which in my mind is not okay. It's going to happen. But you also had people who came at the judge, who came at the prosecutor, who came at law enforcement. And I'm perfectly okay
bring it
with
upon
that.
themselves. Okay. Because I'm looking at the judge. I don't barely know much about her. And I'm just like, what is wrong with this lady?
Well, before Judge Gull got appointed, Judge Diener, I think it was Judge Diener, was the very first judge in that. And after one hearing, he recused himself, and he said he couldn't handle the bloodlust of the public. And I'm like, dude, that's ridiculous. That's a ridiculous thing to say. There is no bloodlust there. It's a very high profile case, and there are a lot of people asking a lot of questions, but there is no quote unquote bloodlust. The only
It's
bloodlust,
how they handled it, though, Joe. So
yeah,
it's like they gaslight the public. I remember not too long ago, I was watching this hearing involving Koberger and releasing the rest of the FOIA. And the attorneys that were going back and forth were talking about how the public, like, we're too childish or something. And we're just going to go make conspiracy theories. And I'm like, fuck you. First off, okay, you can't, that's not how this is decided. It's a federal law, that you have to adhere to. So talk to your government. Don't sit here and tell us it's how we're going to disseminate it. Like, that is bullshit. And that's how they treat us.
That was like one of the very first hearings that they held once Judge Diener resigned and Judge Gold took over. Was they held a hearing in front of Judge Gold to seal the probable cause affidavit.
Does that make sense?
Nick McClelland stood up and he said, we need to seal it because we're still investigating other possible suspects.
Well, there you go. What's his name? Nick
McClelland. But on the same token, within months, the law enforcement officials took the stand the next summer in pretrial hearings and said, from the day that Richard Allen was arrested, we believed he was the only suspect. He was the only guy.
That's because they.
So who's lying? Is Nick McClelland lying, or is law enforcement lying on the stand?
They're both lying. I don't know if they're working together, but they definitely aren't working for justice.
Oh, they were working together. They were on the stage together. I asked them a question, and in retrospect, I wish I had had a better question for them. But what I asked them was, how many other pretrial detainees, how many other innocent pretrial detainees under the presumption of innocence are held in state prison as opposed to a county jail? Because the standard operating procedure is to house a person in county jail until trial. But Richard Allen was held in state prison for more than 14 months.
Where the prison workers got away with a whole lot of weird, heinous shit, huh?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, they really MK'd his ass.
Yeah.
I believe. That's my belief. Because I'm just like, they broke that man. They broke his spirit. They broke him.
Yep. And what's funny is,
I don't believe he's at all. I think he's guilty of admitting, trying to help. I believe that he was there. And so he placed himself there and they were like, oh, yay. The rest is just bullshit. It's bullshit.
Yeah. And what's funny about the question was, so Nick McClelland answered my question at CrimeCon and he dodged the question. He didn't say, I said, how many in your years of experience, how many do you know have been detained in state prison? And he just said more than you think. And he explained, another 30 seconds to a minute of that, more than you think.
Wow.
So I said thank you, because you're not supposed to stand up there and debate with them at CrimeCon. So
why not?
I said thank you, and I turned to walk away. And as I walked away, Jerry Holman, who was the one that techniqued Richard Allen, he's the one that interrogated him in that second interrogation interview. He said, and it wasn't solitary confinement. Where did that come from?
Yeah, they tell on themselves so bad. You just have to listen and give them enough rope to hang themselves, so to speak. It's true.
Yeah, but if I had to do it over again, this would have been my question for Nick McClelland. I submitted a FOIA request in January and February and March. And my FOIA requests were for dispatch records related to the search for Abby and Libby on the evening of February 13th and early morning hours of February 14th. He denied it based on the grounds that it was an active investigation. This is January, February, March of 2025, which is 2 to 3 to 4 months after their main and only suspect has been arrested, tried, convicted, and incarcerated. So why is it still an active investigation, and why didn't you release those FOIA request records? That would have
Right.
been my question if I had to do it over again.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. We'd all do things differently if we had a do-over. And, there's this bishop, or I'm sorry, this church leader who in the church, Robert Millett, he has this statement where he says, it really doesn't matter. Whenever someone asks me a question, I answer the question they should have asked. And that's what that made me think of.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
They have like this corporation or corporate mindset or something. Maybe because they're a corporation. I don't know. Incorporation.
Maybe.
Yeah. But anyway, so yeah, you want to stop there because it's super heavy, and I done drug out through 15 different cases. But I think the point that I would really like to make and continue to make is that satanic ritual abuse, and actually ritual abuse, which like Justin Riggs, he calls it organizational abuse, right? Because they term it satanic ritual abuse when they are blamed, when allegations come out against them. I believe they're the ones who throw out these trigger words to get people to stop thinking.
Right. And it triggers the cognitive dissonance of the members, because they're like, I am a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. I have nothing to do with satanic anything. So this
Secret
is other
combinations.
people.
I mean, we
Yes.
have Melanie Gibb in an interview with Chandler police detectives. And at the very end, she says that this is doctrine of devils. She was like, I've been doing my research. I'm like, bitch, you're part of it. Okay, sorry. I said that out loud. I did. I called Melanie Gibb a bitch.
Oh, no.
Come at me, bitch. No. Anyways, all right. But
Yeah,
she's
we'd
sitting
love to
here
have her
saying it
on.
like she
Wouldn't that be a good
yeah.
interview? Come on,
She
Melanie.
would not dare. I wish she would. I wish her and her conjuring friends would. Okay. They might be doing some bippity boppity boo on us right as we speak. You never know.
Oh my gosh, I just got really dizzy. Oh no.
Oh no. I was like, oh shit, it's hot in here. Maybe it's hot in here. Keep your clothes on though. I used to throw down, y'all. I used to throw down in the club. When it would go low, 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 low. I was like, you got me? In case I don't come back up. Like, got me though? Okay. Anyways. Yeah. So y'all, it's crazy. These people are nuts, but it seems to be festering. It's like it's been festering in that church. For sure. And I'm sure the Catholic Church, I'm sure all the other churches. But apple bottom jeans. Reminds me of Ashlyn when she was she was like 3 and she was like, apple bottom jeans with the fur. Shy baby. I miss my babies when they were babies.
Yeah,
We're coming up on the anniversary for JJ too.
What's that? When is that?
We don't know, 22nd or 23rd. And I need to get JJ back from you.
Yeah, he's right here. He's actually hanging out with Charlie, if that's okay.
Yeah. He loves dogs.
Yeah.
The Keegan Rowan to you. Hey Rowan, whatever happened to the Keegan Klein connection? Is this Twilight Zone? I know, right?
Keegan Klein is just a liar, and he took the county sheriff's department for a ride out there to the cemetery one day.
I have to ask you, or ask y'all. Go ahead. I'm sorry. I just cut you off. I'm so sorry.
And then he sent them on a wild goose chase for a gun that was in the Wabash River along a bridge next to Peru, and they never found one. That doesn't mean it wasn't there, though, just because they didn't find it. But they spent it was either $1 million or $2 million on that dive search team alongside the bridge outside of Peru, Indiana, in the Wabash River.
Wow.
So they were.
What about that one person who said that, if they find my spit on them?
Elvis Fields. Elvis Fields.
That's so
Yeah.
incriminating.
It could be. And I was there on August 31st when he testified in the pre-trial third-party hearing about whether or not Judge Gull was going to allow arguments about third-party suspects in there, which she never did. She denied those. But Detective Murphy is the one that stood up there on the stand and cried when he saw the crime scene photos, which they didn't show to us. They only showed to him. He cried. And then he said, not following up. So he's the one that interviewed Elvis Fields and took him back to his trailer, well, to his sister's trailer in a trailer park in southern Indiana, southeast Indiana, and said, as Elvis Fields was leaving, he said, so if you find my spit on one of the girls' bodies, could I be in trouble? And then turned and walked away. And Detective Murphy didn't do anything about it. Like right then and there, boom. Let's go talk about this down at the police station. Nope, he didn't do that. And he said, he admitted on the stand under oath, that is my biggest regret in this case, that I didn't follow up on that.
On that, what I've learned from the Hamblin case is that it's alleged that there are many different people that are part of these kind of practices. Okay. Like SR, you can call it SR, you can call it whatever the hell you want. Okay. They're brothers, the brotherhood, whatever you want to term it, because it comes in many different shapes and forms, but it all results in the same thing. And they have different people with different labels or different roles. The conspirator, there's one person who's in charge of like keeping tabs on people. There's another person that might be in the role of twisting the story, just whatever they got to do to keep spinning it, to keep the lead from going back to the group. Right. And so, I mean, I've learned that in this case, and I've seen that demonstrated in some of these people in and around this case. And it's like they cause so much chaos and confusion that they stay and remain undetected. I believe that's what happened in the murders of Tylee and JJ. I believe there's more people involved. And, it's like if one ends up getting caught, there's so many more to carry on the, whatever you want to call it, conspiracy, or I call it continue on the abuse. And it's like, I believe these cases, I think they're more in today's society than we're aware of, because you can't convict somebody because of their beliefs, but you can convict them on evidence. But how do you go to that?
When it comes to the Delphi case, I'm not sure where the systemic suppression of the evidence is, but I do know that there was a task force. There was an FBI coordinated task force that was investigating the third parties. And there were certain odinistic third parties that were taken into the Indiana State Police Post on State Road 43 and County Road 600 North in West Lafayette, Indiana, and their interviews were erased. But the task force that was assembled was just 3 guys. It was Kevin Murphy, who is the detective that I just mentioned that cried on the stand and that says he regrets not following up with Elvis Fields. But then there's Todd Click, who was with Rushville Police Department, which is down where Elvis Fields lived. And he was also with these 3 guys, Kevin Murphy and Todd Click and Greg Ferenczi, were all investigating these third-party suspects together and probably believed that they were involved because of the length that they went to investigate them. Todd Click has been arrested since for some type of Social Security Administration fraud or something to do with something that's just kind of like very nebulous. Like Maybe he did it, maybe he didn't, but some type of fraud. He's been arrested, he's in jail, he's been discredited. He didn't testify at any of the hearings because he was arrested right before the trial started. And then there's Greg Ferenczi, who actually was a detective with the Terre Haute Police Department, who became an FBI agent, who was murdered outside of the FBI headquarters and is no longer around to testify one way or the other either. And his assailant, Shane something or other, I can't remember his name now. His assailant has pled not guilty by reason of insanity. So his hearings have been drawn out, and we will probably never know. But some people say that he may have had ties to Odinism because he was a former Indiana Department of Corrections officer. What a tangled web. Are you still with me? Did I lose you? I explained. I went down the Delphi rabbit hole. I haven't done that in a long time.
Well,
I've
dang.
not done that in a long time.
Well, no, I go on rabbit holes all the time.
MJ Van rabbit hole. I went down a rabbit hole.
Well, I mean, that is a whole rabbit hole. That's a whole, what some people say rabbit trail, some say bunny trail. I've noticed. I'm like, okay, it's an endless hole that we get stuck in sometimes. And sometimes we find things, but that's okay.
Right? Yeah, if you go deep enough. So there's the rabbit trails I kind of think of are like side discussions, and we get back to the main trail in a hurry. But rabbit holes, you can go deeper and deeper and deeper until you find those magic mushrooms.
Oh, yeah. Oh, or the peyote and have them revelations. Oh, my gosh. Well, anyways, thank y'all for being here tonight. I really appreciate this, always, this opportunity. Just some real nefarious stuff. And I sometimes wonder if they even know that it's inverted. I don't know. Or do they think I'm inverted? Or am I inverted? Like, how much am I inverted? You know, like, I don't know. It's interesting.
Yeah. And it all deals with our mindset, their mindset, and their ability to manipulate other people's mindset. That's the conclusion that I'm coming to, that based on our conversation. I mean, I think Lori may have had some compartmentalization and disassociation disorders going on there that may have made her not any less responsible, but possibly subject to manipulation.
Yeah, totally. I wondered the same thing. At first, I didn't know what that was. You know, I'm like, that's crazy stuff. Mind control? What? And then I'm finding out more and more that it's so more pervasive than we even know.
Yeah.
More than I know. So just because it's different, odd, unheard, you know, the not mainstream, I guess you could say, doesn't mean that it does not exist and that we shouldn't look into. Things are weird, you know, but just because they're weird or unsettling doesn't mean that they don't deserve the same amount of compassion and just trying to understand and like gap the bridge between, you know, like try to figure out, well, how are they saying all these crazy things to me? They're crazy, you know, sound crazy. I've never heard these things before. They sound foreign. But then the more and more that I've researched, the more and more it makes sense to me what's being said. And I mean, I kind of deal with this in my own storytelling. You know, I try to translate it into something that just regular people would understand. And it's hard, especially when you don't know the language, you know? So that's the challenging part for me.
Right. And I think that's key and is very one of the important aspects to us doing our series together, is that we're teaching people to hear the key words and phrases and understand the language that's being spoken.
Yeah, because it is harming some people. It can. And I mean, yeah.
And it will it will continuously until
Yeah.
we find a way to stop it.
Yep. 100%. She was, yeah, I'm sure she was manipulated, but she is also a manipulator. Exactly. It doesn't mean they're less culpable. It's just like, I'm trying to figure out what happened, you know, how does this happen so that maybe it can further the research into this area, you know, like into the manipulation and these tactics that are used a lot of times unknowingly. Like, we don't know these things are happening. But then once you become aware of them, you see it everywhere. So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. I testify.
Allegedly.
Allegedly. Yeah.
Thank you, everybody, for being here. I think we have one star. There's a super chat from Libby Doobaday.
Libby Doobaday. I can say it when you say it. I can't say it on my own. Thank you, Libby Doobaday. I can't. See? Libby Doobaday.
Thank you to the mods. Thanks for being
y'all.
here and helping us out. And thanks for everybody for watching.
Gosh.
All right, wrap it up, Kresha. You know how to do
Justice, I forgot. Justice for Tylee, Trolls, Tammy, JJ, Joe, and Brandon. Love always wins.
Love always wins.
Good evening. Come and find you a seat. Grab yourself a cup of joe and put up your feet. Let's talk about the latest news and all about true crime. We can make a difference if we put in the time. Good evening. Come and find you a seat. Grab yourself a cup of joe and put up your feet. Let's talk about the latest news and all about true crime. We can make a difference if we put in the time. If we put in the time. Yeah. Good evening. Come and find you a seat. Grab yourself a cup of joe and put up your feet. Let's talk about the latest news and all about true crime.